It's moving. It's Young People Nation.
Welcome to Young People Nation. Listen to us weekly as we commit to bring transparency, healing, and truth to the everyday situations in life that might bring you down. Join us for your weekly dose of inspiration. Thank you for listening to Young People Nation. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And now, here's your host, Eugene and Donna Perry.
Let's go. Christ is the foundation. Know his word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth. Giving guidance to the lost. Give the world to the project. Lead them back to the cross.
Welcome to Young People Nation, and welcome to session 3 of our journey and our conversation with Brian, better known as Levi, in the community. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah.
And we're just honored to be a part of his journey and he a part of our journey. And we are really enjoying this communication and him opening up about his journey. He has made decisions to face his truth. And when we make a decision to face our truth, we're able to help others. Yeah. And so he's been out here in the community, meeting with and working with the Health Foundation, Bridges of Hope, and Pyramid Healthcare, and some other well-known events and situations. And talk to us about a few more of those that you've been a part of. Yeah,
well, it's wonderful. I've getting sober. Okay, and hitting that spiritual bottom, so to speak. You know, I described my first drink as a spiritual experience. Well, my bottom, as bad as it was a spiritual experience too. That's where God came in, right?
Okay. Right.
And revealed to me, said, look, you want to keep doing this? You can't keep living this way, right? And you're either going to live with me or you're going to, live in, it's either self-will or God's will, right? And that happened when I got sober. The bottom was tremendous. I was introduced into this wonderful community of people that are just like me.
Yes.
Right? So all of a sudden, I didn't feel unique, right? I didn't think I was the only bad person out there doing this to his family and his friends and having the consequences of addiction and alcoholism. All of a sudden, I was with like-minded folks and a community of people, a fellowship, if you will, that helped me better understand the disease that I was dealing with. Not only the disease of alcoholism and addiction, but mental illness, right? And then the spiritual solution, right? To any spiritual problem, there's got to be a spiritual solution. And it just, it was wonderful. Now, I was with that community for a long time. I volunteered, just like you said, at places like the Health Foundation, working with men that are in recovery. And I did that for years. I also, when I went back to drinking after a long period of abstinence and sobriety, I was a client and a resident at both of those facilities, right? And I was in my late 40s. Right? In my late 40s, everything I had built up, I didn't mention this earlier, but all that stuff that I had, that I thought was going to give me value, right? All the stuff that I wanted people to see parked in my driveway or, what I thought would give me value, every bit of that was gone in 3.5 years. And I think the thing that I think about right now more than anything is stuff doesn't give me value. Right. Today, I have a job at Pyramid, like you mentioned, Pyramid Healthcare, and they work with the Bluff out here. And it's a residential treatment program that's just incredibly gifted people that work there, and the leadership there is tremendous. And they do residential treatment for people like me, And what I do is I work from home, and there's 5 facilities, including the Bluff. I get to talk to alcoholics and addicts every day that are at that jumping off place where I don't want to be here anymore. Like we talked about earlier, right?
Yes.
Or I can't do this anymore, right? Or this fentanyl epidemic and heroin epidemic, right? So many people that I can identify because I'm an opiate addict, right? And I'm in recovery in a position to be of service. So it's the people that have come into my life have been wonderful.
Thank God for technology.
And this is a session that we're talking about the importance of accountability and mentorship. And you just made mention of all that it's important to be accountable and have some form of mentorship.
That's right.
Especially with our young people. There's so many that have died from this fentanyl, thinking they're taking one thing, but it's something else in there.
Yeah.
Wow. And so therefore you are part of that community
I am.
that these young people can call and talk with you.
Absolutely. And just like I said earlier, when I first found that community, that fellowship of people, they could identify with me, right?
Right.
So I absolutely understand what they're going through, right? And the blessing for me, the reason why I said I was uniquely qualified is because I've been through that, right?
Yes.
Right.
I've had all this success, and I got hooked on opiates and painkillers, right? And the fentanyls of today turns into a $500 a day habit that I had. And I had that for 3.5 years, right? So everything was gone. The retirements, the properties, right? The security was gone. And through that experience, today, working with other people, that's the thing that helps me become uniquely qualified to help somebody else that's at their bottom. They're homeless, right? They're sticking a needle in their arm, right? Or they're drinking alcohol to escape. And for whatever reason, that's the gift that God gave me in being honest and transparent and being able to tell people, look, I've been there. I know what this is like. And if you want to come out from under that, if you want to be the person that you've dreamed of being, right? There's a way out.
You made mention of how your relationship with God was like. God was like, "Look, you want to be free from this? What do you want to do?"
Yeah,
you know, and so that was still a decision you had to make. So, in our conversation with you, you made mention of your mentor, and he was also your accountability.
That's right.
Okay, let's talk about him and how were you when you connected with him, and what was it about him?
Yeah, so he had an energy. First time I met him, I had been to treatment. I told you about that experience in 2003, early 2000s. Went back, but I went down to a place on the coast, Brunswick and St. Simons, and that's where Doc lived. He was a wonderful guy. But the first time I met him, there was an energy, a spirit, right, among us. And he kind of took on this role as mentor, right, an accountability coach, whatever you want to call that. But he just took me in. He took me under his wing after my father had died, right, and played that role wonderfully. But he was an alcoholic that had lost everything, and he was a veterinarian, and he had destroyed his life, right, and had rebuilt it. And his life was just so, I was so attracted to what he looked like. And I knew that he was like me. When he told me his story and we connected, like I do with those guys on the phone every day, right, or at the treatment facility, we connected. I knew he was just like me. So when he said, I know how to get out of here, I was looking at his life thinking, oh my God, I want that so bad, right? And for 15 years, right, he was my mentor, my spiritual advisor, and he was a good friend of mine, but he was also an alcoholic and a drug addict in recovery that was showing me the way and the path. And it all comes back to God. It comes back to the spiritual side and the spiritual presence for every person. You're going to connect with that, or you're going to try to connect with something else. And for me, just like you said, Donna, it was a choice, either this way or that way, right?
Yes.
And for me, through brokenness, right? Okay, through absolute shame, guilt, remorse, spiritual, mental, physical bottoms, all of those things. It came with an acceptance, and you're right about acceptance. It's so important, and the decision you talked about is important. I made a decision, that I was going to seek God, and I was going to follow the path that He laid in front of me. And I was going to surrender everything else, all the material stuff, right? All the stuff that was driven by pride and ego, all of that. I surrendered that.
That's powerful.
My self-will, right, to align with God's will. And when I did that, like I said, it came through brokenness, but I was at a bottom where I was willing to finally do something about it, right? Because you can make a decision and not do anything, right? Okay, so a decision for me is the action that comes behind it.
Yes.
If I say that I'm going to do this, and I decide I'm going to do this, and I make a covenant with God to do that, then there has to be action, right? And to build that relationship or build it back, because I had avoided God for a while. I was angry with God for a while. I misunderstood, So it was a powerful moment for me where I made a decision, and I knew that I was going to follow that path wherever it led me. And it's led me here in this very moment, right?
Amen.
Today, I don't have any flashy cars. I don't have a big house. I don't even own a home anymore. I had to give that up, right?
Wow,
when
that's powerful.
At the end of my my addiction. And I'm paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes I feel financially like I'm going to go under, okay? And I don't have all that stuff, but what I do have, I sleep wonderfully at night. I have no secrets whatsoever. And I have a good relationship with Karen, you know, that I'm building a healthy relationship.
Right. Yes.
I've got a dog, a pit bull that we rescued named Tallulah that absolutely adores me, right? And I adore her.
Yes.
Right? And I have all these friends that I can go see and I can talk to and build relationships with that are just like me, right? And then we can take that as we get sober in recovery and we can help somebody that was helpless, right?
Yes.
Or hopeless in that hopeless state of mind and body that I was in. I know exactly what that's like, but it all goes back to a decision. A decision comes with steps that you have to take.
Right.
And I'm so grateful that I've taken those steps. I'm so grateful that I was shown the way.
Yes.
And Doc did that. Doc just showed me through his example every day. And he was just the coolest cat I ever met. And I wanted to be just like him, right? You know, and I have a friend today, my mentor today, Brendan. He is just like that. The first time I met him, I was drawn to him, right? And he had something that I want, right? He's an opiate addict, alcoholic, and a cocaine addict, just like I was, right? He's in recovery. He's been sober for a while, and he helps other people. And I watch him, and the transformation, I saw him when he first came in at the Hale Foundation. So I was sober volunteering there, right? And he comes in, and this creature that he was has been completely transformed, right? Through these steps that we take after that decision, you know, that you know what, God, I give up. I can't do it anymore. I've been doing a lousy job of it anyway. Once you take over.
Yes. Isn't that something?
Yeah, it is.
That's what life is about. Actually, you be like, okay, God, apparently I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't been on, you know, we all have journeys. But also what I heard, because Doc is deceased now.
Yeah, he sure did. Passed up 3 years ago. Yeah,
but you did not stop being accountable and having a mentor.
I have to have that accountability.
That's what I heard.
I have to have that accountability. I have to be responsible for my own recovery, and not only recovery, but my own life, right? The choices and what am I doing? And that's where it goes back to my mother.
Yes.
Right? So I have all of this. It's been instilled in me.
Right.
And I've seen this example for 49 years, right? When I finally gave up the ghost and finally got my act together, right? So I've seen this example.
Yes.
Of what faith in God, a relationship with God, and just a true, I don't even know the word to describe it, and I apologize, but she's been just a wonderful example.
Right.
Okay?
That's awesome.
She's shown
a beacon of light.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's not what you say either, right? My mom didn't have to say anything. It's about what you do,
Yes,
right? Because I
living.
can say anything, right?
Yes.
And I make it sound or look a certain way. But what am I doing with my feet?
That's right.
What does it look like? You know,
Yes. Right.
And today, that mentorship Brendan gives me, he shows me what to do, you know, through his own example, and he's like my best friend, but he's also, I want to be like him. Right. I want my life to look like his in a lot of ways, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to do the same thing he did.
Okay.
And I'm going to surrender.
Okay.
Right? And I'm going to surrender to God, and I'm going to be willing to do something about it. Make a decision, put some action behind it, right?
Yes.
Because I can talk all day.
Right. Right.
I need to start walking. And
Yes.
If I may, surrender. Very important,
Yes.
right? Because I think when one surrenders and they give up the self and the ego and the pride and those things that drive that, all the worldly things that society seems like is so important. When you make that surrender, you give up everything, right? And you surrender to God. I had a guy one time tell me that the origin of the word surrender comes from the original battlefield, right? And there was this tremendous army, right? And they were faced with certain death. They knew that they were going to die in this other army. And he said it literally means to lay down your arms and join the winning side. And I had never thought about it right there. So they had to lay down their defenses, you know, but for us, we have to lay down our pride. We have to lay down our ego.
Yes.
And we have to surrender. So I related to that.
Self-will.
Right. So I made a decision, just like they did on the battlefield. I knew that I was getting ready to die. Okay. And I laid down all my defenses. I surrendered every bit of that, and I joined the winning side. So I didn't feel like a loser then. Right. So they always say surrender to win. I didn't get that, you know. But for me, it was exactly that. It was surrender and get to a place where you can actually have a relationship with God and strip away all that other stuff. And I made a decision I would rather live than die.
That's
So,
powerful.
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So those thoughts I used to have about not being here.
Wow.
Maybe I won't wake up, or trying to, I've had overdoses with opiates, dozens of them, and a couple of them that hospitalized me. And I can honestly say that there was times I didn't want to wake up because I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing in addiction and buying all these drugs off the street and really destroying myself. You know? Today, I don't feel like I've never had a thought, or I shouldn't say never, but recently I've had no thoughts whatsoever of not being here. And it happened in my 50s, right? I'm 52 years old now.
That's okay, it happened.
Hey, yeah,
Yes.
but the Bridges of Hope. I was a resident down there and a staff member, right? And I got to work in recovery for the first time there. I left the Bridges of Hope in Louisville, and what Roscoe and Lee did for me down there was wonderful. They're great friends of mine. They're still there. And there's 70 men down there that are struggling with addiction and alcoholism that they help. And I get to be an example and be a part of that, right?
Yes.
But I lived there for 2 years, and it was all about discipline. It was structure. It was accountability. It was being responsible.
Right.
It was teaching you how to get on this spiritual path, and it was just wonderful. So Bridges of Hope really helped me do that. Unfortunately, for me, I made choices that it didn't happen for me until I was 49 years old.
Right.
But that's okay. It happened.
Hey.
I know we're getting short on time, but I remember my husband worked out a youth challenge where the young men are very mentally challenged, different backgrounds, correct, honey?
Right.
And when they took a picture of my husband at one of the kids at the graduation, it was two young men that they just hugged my husband and how he was effective in their life. Yeah. And so I was like, wow, that picture spoke volume of how you was effective with a lot of young men. A lot of them came back and they would write letters to you and tell you thank you.
Well, I think yes, and one of the greatest things was a young man told me when I saw that picture that I knew that's what I wanted. That I could go there and have that joy and get my life back. It
was attractive.
That's powerful.
And that mentorship, right? Being able to influence young men, young women, right? And being able to try to give them some direction in a society that just, focuses on the wrong things. You know? But when somebody hugs you like that, there's nothing better.
A real hug.
Yeah.
A real hug.
Genuine. You know that love.
Yeah. It's almost like you get the bear hug and they hold on for a little while, right?
Yeah. Like I got this symbolism of God. Literally.
Yes.
I'll tell you a story about a hug another time, but
okay.
it was a hug from a lady named Roseanne that changed my whole life, really, in a lot of ways. It was a wonderful experience, but hugs are powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of accountability and mentorship. Was there something you was going to say, dear?
Not this time, baby.
Okay. So, Levi, can you leave the audience, parents, and you've said a lot, as a person that you had all the material things, but you were dying.
That's right. I was unhappy. It didn't make me happy. I thought those things would make me happy.
And so now you don't have all those things, but you are so at peace.
Yes.
And you understand your purpose.
I do.
Okay. So leave a snippet for the audience.
Okay. For me right now, what I would say is God stripped those things from me, right? And I did it as a result of self, but he stripped all that stuff from me. And I realized there was no value in stuff,
Right.
And this is the thing. I believe we're only here for a small period of time.
Yes.
In my faith and my belief, right, I'm preparing for a place, and I'm not going to bring all that stuff with me.
Right.
It's going to be about what kind of relationship, what kind of person were you, what kind of family member were you? Did you honor your mother and your father, right? Did you help siblings? Did you build relationships?
Right.
It's about those things before I leave this place.
Yes.
Out and get to the place that I'm looking for, right? None of that stuff matters. All that matters is the relationships I built and what I did in serving people through God with the relationships that I have built and the gifts that he's given me. Everything. When I leave this place, that's all that's going to matter. So I focus my time now on building relationships. And I'm building a relationship, continue to do that with God. And if I want to build a relationship with you, I've got to spend time with you.
Right.
Yes.
I've got to communion with you.
Right.
Yes.
I've got to be present in the moment, right? Same thing with, our children. We got to be present.
Amen.
Same thing with ourselves and understanding what we're doing and becoming okay with ourselves and our purpose. All that stuff that I gave away means nothing. I sleep good at night.
Right.
You know, I eat well, obviously, you know, but I have no secrets. I'm in healthy
That's
relationships.
powerful right there. Yes.
I have no secrets. And I don't have all that stuff, but I have fulfillment in what I do and what I'm able to do.
Right.
You're
I'm
living. Yes.
For the first time, I'm really living.
Okay. Well, this has been so transparent and so rich. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, so as always, we give out our mental health hotline because we never know who's listening. The 988 hotline, the text 741 to 741. That's free 24/7 crisis counseling. And also, you can call the 211 number for a general community resource if you just don't know, and that's 7 days a week. Mr. Perry.
Well, in life, you can't worship riches and position and all that. You come to a point in life where when you give it all up, you find the peace and the happiness. Because nobody can take nothing from you. And are you living the life that you meant to live? Or are you just existing? This has been Young People Nation. Remember, there is always hope.
Let's go. Christ is the foundation. Know his word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth. Giving guidance to the lost. Give the world to the project. Lead them back to the cross. He the #1 prospect. He the top boss. I was broke, I was empty. He the one that paid the cost. Really thought that I was cool. There was nothing like the Savior. Now it's time for the truth. The whole world been waiting. It's Young People Nation. 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 The whole world been waiting. Whatever you going through, I know what he gonna do. Don't matter the circumstance, we going back to the root. Keep going, keep going. Let that seed keep growing. You need peace and we know it. Now it's time to live holy. Young People Nation. You know what time it is. Young People Nation. Get ready, the time is here. Get ready, we vibing here. We about to let God in here. Young People Nation. It's Young People Nation. Yeah, do it for the heavens, you know where we going. Influenced by his love, you know we gotta show it. It's time to put the youth onto what God is doing. Cause I can tell you now, right now, that God is moving. It's Young People Nation.